Welcome, dear listeners. Thank you for your loyalty and for being with us once again. Together, we continue our journey back to the late 1970s to explore what the world of arcade gaming had to offer. Today, let us open the April 1979 issue of Playmeter and discover what it reveals about the American industry. Now, April 1979 was also marked by the energy crisis triggered by the Iranian Revolution. In the United States, oil prices skyrocketed, long lines formed at gas stations, and this surge in cost weighed heavily on the entire economy, including arcade operators, who faced rising energy and logistics expenses. It's a fascinating backdrop to what was, for many, a booming industry.
Yeah, absolutely. That economic pressure, the energy crisis, it really hit the arcade business hard. I mean, think about it. Every single machine used electricity, right? And with costs just soaring, those utility bills suddenly became, well, a huge chunk of their overhead. And a lot of these guys, they ran routes servicing machines all over town. So fuel for the trucks, that cost shot up too. Suddenly, making smart, efficient business decisions wasn't just about growth anymore. It was really about survival, about keeping the lights on. It just underscored how critical every little strategic choice became for these operators.
That makes perfect sense. And Playmeter's editor, Ralph C. Lally II, he really hammered this point home. He celebrated the industry's growth. Yeah, the profitability was impressive. But then he sort of wondered aloud how the street operator, the ones with machines in bars, laundromats, that kind of thing, how could they possibly survive? They were often giving away half, sometimes more of their income to the location owner, and then facing these rising costs on top. It sounds like a really precarious spot.
Oh, it was a stark contrast because your dedicated arcade operators, the ones running their own amusement centers, they didn't have those 50-50 splits, you know, and that difference, the ability to keep more of the revenue, it gave them this crucial financial edge. They could actually reinvest more into getting the latest games, making the place look better.
Yeah, creating an atmosphere.
Exactly. That ability to self-fund and constantly upgrade really set them apart from the street guys who were often just scraping by.
So what was the advice for these street operators then? Sounds like they needed something radical.
Well, the editor offered some pretty innovative advice, actually. He suggested that even if you just had one machine out there, you should start thinking like a full arcade operator.
One machine? How?
His vision was to create these sort of mini arcades, tailor the equipment to the venue. The example he gave was putting a clown's video game inside a custom cabinet designed to look like a McDonald's clown, specifically for a McDonald's location.
Okay, interesting, like themed enclosure.
Exactly. And the key was to sell it not just as a game, but as a service to customers. Get away from that simple 50-50 split. Add value.
That is pretty forward thinking for 79.
Yeah.
Directly tackling those economic pressures.
Yeah, it really was. By turning that single machine into like an integrated part of the location's experience, you could hopefully maximize the revenue from that unit. It was all about perception, added value, making the machine an attraction, not just a box in the corner.
Right.
And that strategy, that mindset shift could maybe help insulate them a bit from those rising operating costs by boosting the income per play. It was a shift from just dropping off a machine to actually curating an experience.
This intense focus on maximizing revenue, making every square foot count, it naturally leads to thinking about where you put the machines, right? The physical location.
Absolutely. And in 1979, the American shopping mall was really emerging as the next big thing for arcade growth.
Ah, the malls.
Yeah. John Doherty, he was Playmeter's Coin Man of the Month and an expert on mall locations. He pointed out this big trend. Older shopping centers were expanding, renovating, and suddenly becoming really viable spots for amusement centers.
So developers were starting to see arcades differently.
Totally. It was a huge shift in perception.
What made a mall location ideal back then, according to Doherty?
He was very specific. Major regional malls, the big ones, 600,000 to over 1 million square feet, typically anchored by 2, 3, 4 department stores.
Why the big ones?
Guaranteed foot traffic, high volume. That was the key. And he really preferred the enclosed malls over the open-air centers. So they were much better at attracting families and adults consistently.
Okay, steady stream of customers. Makes sense, especially with inflation biting.
Exactly. Consistent traffic meant consistent revenue potential.
But, okay, these sound like prime spots.
Yeah.
How did a little operator, the local guy, even try to compete against the big national chains like Aladdin's Castle or Sega Fun Centers, they must have been all over these malls.
You'd think it was impossible, right? But Daugherty had this surprising take. He said smaller, local operators actually had some advantages.
Really? Like what?
Well, apparently, landlords sometimes found the national companies a bit uncreative in their designs, or maybe a little lax in rotating games, keeping things fresh. They were actually looking for operators who offered personal attention, a more engaged partnership.
Ah, interesting.
Now, the hurdles for the little guy were real, don't get me wrong. Getting the lease guarantees, proving you had the financial backing, and just lacking prior mall experience, that was tough. But that personal touch, that local connection, could actually make a difference in negotiations.
So the small operator had to basically sell themselves as the better, more attentive partner.
Precisely. And Daugherty gave some very practical advice. Commission professional artwork for your storefront. Make it look good, attractive. Implement uniforms for your staff. He stressed this was a big deal for landlords concerned about security and image.
Uniforms. Wow, okay.
Yeah. And just generally focus on running a really high-quality, clean, reliable operation. Project professionalism.
Attention to detail seems key. What about the money side, the leases themselves? What did Daugherty say about that?
He advised operators to aim for long leases. Ideally 20 years, though 10 was more common. Some were even just 5.
Why so long?
Because rents had literally doubled in the previous 5 years. Locking in a rate offered crucial long-term stability in an inflationary environment.
Okay, and what kind of rates are we talking?
Around $15 to $20 per square foot annually. Plus, you had to factor in another, say, $5 per square foot for common area maintenance, CAM charges, heating, insurance, taxes, all that stuff.
That's pretty substantial. Were they also paying a percentage of the take?
Oh, yeah. Typically 10 to 15% of the gross revenue. But, and this is important, Daugherty stressed that this was highly negotiable.
Ah, so room to maneuver.
Definitely. It was often a trade-off. You might agree to a higher base rent to get a lower percentage cut, or vice versa, depending on how confident you were about your earnings potential.
And the size of the space. What was the sweet spot?
Well, early mall arcades were often pretty small. But by '79, the thinking was moving towards 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. That seemed ideal for attracting families, enough room for maybe 30 to 80 games. Sometimes, though, landlords would push for even bigger spaces, trying to fill a large vacant spot. Daugherty cautioned that could be a mistake for a small operator if they couldn't actually fill it profitably.
Right. Avoid biting off more than you can chew. A big empty arcade doesn't look good or pay the bills. How did operators even get considered for these spaces? Were they competing directly?
It's interesting. Game rooms, like fast food places, were often seen as filler tenants. They'd get offered space later in the leasing process after the big anchor stores were locked in.
Yeah, it's like a disadvantage.
You'd think so, but Daugherty argued it could actually give operators leverage, especially if they were willing to take on larger, maybe awkwardly shaped spaces that were harder to fill, say, 10,000 square feet, perfect for bumper cars or something bigger.
Ah, okay. Turning a negative into a positive.
Exactly. And surprisingly, he said prime storefront frontage wasn't always essential if the attraction itself was strong enough. T-shaped or L-shaped layouts deeper inside could work just fine if you drew people in effectively.
So what kind of money could they realistically expect to make in these mall spots?
Daugherty's projection was around $50 to $100 per machine per week, averaging maybe $75.
Okay.
So if you had, say, 40 machines in a 2,000 square foot space, you're looking at roughly $150,000 a year in gross revenue.
Not bad for 79.
Not bad at all, though he did have this kind of controversial view on promotions and marketing.
Oh, what was that?
He famously said, the whole gross revenue for the place was established when you picked the spot.
Wow. Location is everything, basically.
That was his argument. A great location, he reckoned, could make money even with, quote, crummy games, whereas a bad location would struggle even with the best equipment and tons of promotions. Really underscores how critical that site selection was perceived to be.
That's a powerful statement. And it ties back to what you said about developers changing their view of arcades. They were becoming desirable tenants.
Absolutely. Daugherty gave credit to industry leaders like Jules Millman, Craig Singer, Jerry Cruz for improving the industry's image. Plus, video games were becoming more family-friendly, less associated with maybe rougher elements.
So developers were actively seeking them out.
They were definitely becoming very interested, as the magazine put it. And because building new shopping centers was so expensive and faced zoning hurdles, developers were focusing on expanding and renovating existing malls.
Ah, creating new opportunities in established places.
Exactly. Even malls that hadn't previously considered an arcade were now rethinking it. Resources like the International Council of Shopping Centers, the ICSC, and publications like Shopping Center Digest became essential tools for operators hunting for these new mall opportunities.
Okay, so you found your mall spot. Now, how do you lay it out inside for maximum profit? There was an article on that too, right? Comparing it to a grocery store.
Yeah, that was managing editor David Pearson, a really fascinating piece. His core idea was treat your games like different types of groceries, placed strategically.
How so?
He said video games should be treated like impulse items, like the candy and magazines at the checkout.
Ah, okay. Put them right up front.
Exactly. Put the video games right near the entrance to grab people who might not normally even walk into an arcade, lure them in.
Makes sense.
And especially highlight your headliner games. The ones that really drew crowds, got people watching. He mentioned a game called Doctor Doctor, where you fought microbes inside a body, apparently. Put those front and center to create buzz, excitement right off the bat.
Clever. What about families? That was a growing market.
He had advice for that, too. Use loss leaders near the entrance, specifically for kids. Things like kiddie rides or those little coin-op cartoon theaters.
Keep the little ones busy so the parents can play.
That was the idea. Occupy the young children, freeing up the parents in their quarters for the other games. He even suggested digging out old electromechanical pinball machines.
The really old ones.
Yeah, the EM games with the chimes and relays, setting them on nickel play just for kids under 10, maybe with an attendant nearby. A really thoughtful approach to managing different customer groups.
So, videos and kiddie stuff up front. What about the other games? Pinball? Foosball?
Those he called the staples, like your bread and milk in the grocery store.
Yeah. The essentials that regulars will seek out.
Exactly. Your dedicated pinball wizards or foosball fanatics, they'll find those games wherever you put them, so they could go further back in the arcade.
Okay.
Unless, he noted, a particular pinball game became a headliner itself, drawing big crowds, then absolutely move it up front too. It was all about being flexible and responding to what was actually popular.
Any other layout tips from Pearson?
Yeah, a few practical ones. Mix videos and pins together throughout the space. Don't just cluster them. Encourage people to wander and explore, and keep the aisles wide 4 to 6 feet. This was important to avoid that feeling of a cramped, smoky teenage hangout, which could put off families and adults.
Right, create a more open, welcoming feel.
And crucially, change machines.
Ah, yes, the lifeblood of the arcade.
Totally. Put the bill changers, including the new $5 bill changers that were appearing right up front. Make it easy for people to get quarters.
And tokens? Were they becoming a thing?
They were starting to. Pearson mentioned the benefits. If you use tokens, you could put the token changer up front too, making it obvious how things worked. Plus, tokens made it easier to adjust your coin mechanisms if needed, help stop people using slugs or foreign coins.
Slug prevention. Always an issue.
Right, and tokens also simplify things if you were exporting games internationally. Just swap the coin mech. So yeah, tokens had several practical advantages.
And placement wasn't static, right? Rotation was important.
Absolutely critical. Pearson said equipment should be treated like highly mobile furniture. If a game wasn't earning its keep, move it. Try it somewhere else. Or just rotate it out.
Don't get sentimental about a game that's not making money.
Pretty much. And he also stressed that upgrading was often better than just rotating, especially with video games. He used Seawolf as an example. Cost $1,500 new. After 3 years, its resale value had dropped from $900 to maybe $600, $700. And he predicted it would tank to $300, $400 in just a few more months.
Wow, depreciation hit hard and fast.
Insanely fast on those early video titles. Operators had to be smart and sell them off before the value completely disappeared.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Playmeter also had this headlines and behind-the-scenes news section, which sounds like it had some colorful stories.
Oh, it definitely did. It gives you a real flavor of the industry back then. You get some surprisingly candid admissions, like the Pinball Execs Admit Con Job piece.
Con job, what was that?
Well, basically, a spokesman for the pinball manufacturers finally admitted that the new electronic solid-state pinball machines were not actually easier or quicker to repair on location than the old electromechanical ones.
So the sales pitch wasn't quite reality.
Apparently not. That whole idea of a quick 10-minute service call, forget it. Operators were told to plan for at least an hour for electronic repairs. An honest, if maybe reluctant, admission.
Huh. And what else? Any funny failures?
Oh, yeah. Hardery Inc. had to recall a video game because the coin doors were designed so badly that, quote, many customers can't figure out where to drop the money in.
You had one job, Coindor.
Right. Basic stuff. And then there was this intentionally bad game called Dipstick. The creators openly said it is going to bomb. It was colorless, boring, and its only feature was a little arm that dabbed oil on the player's nose.
Oil on the nose. Why?
Who knows? Clearly not every idea was golden.
Those are pretty funny. Any other weirdness?
How about the CEO of Halfway Games MFG Co., a guy named C. Marshall Dibbs, who reportedly collapsed after getting too much praise for his machines? Apparently, positive mentions in Playmeter were the final straw.
Collapsed from praise. That's a new one.
Tells you something, doesn't it? Then you had Rally MFG releasing a Son of Sam pinball machine.
Wait, the Son of Sam?
Yep. Complete with victim face targets and .44 magnum lanes. Pretty controversial, even then.
Yikes. Okay.
And maybe the strangest story, an operator who called the police on a customer just because he was playing pinball too. Politely.
Politely.
Yeah, the operator testified the guy was obviously a fruitcake because he didn't yell or pound on the machine when he played.
Wow. Just, wow. What did that say about the perception of arcade players?
Right. It's bizarre. But amidst all that craziness, there was this unexpected trend. Huge demand for used electromechanical pinball machines. The old EMs.
They'd one of the old ones back.
Overwhelming demand, apparently.
Yeah.
Distributors were paying top dollar for them, promoting them as radically different with new chime sounds and spinning score drums that you can actually feel turn.
Huh. Marketing the classics is something new. That's brilliant.
It really shows the enduring appeal of those older machines, even as the flashy new video games were arriving.
It seems like, alongside all this innovation and weirdness, the industry was also starting to think more seriously about its public image. There was an article by Roger C. Sharp.
It's leaning house. And Sharp did not pull any punches. He called out operators running shabby locations with filthy equipment, saying they were giving the whole industry a bad reputation.
All for professionalism.
Absolutely. He really urged operators to invest time and money into improving the atmosphere of their arcades. Clean the games, check the lighting, make the places more welcoming. And he pushed them to promote their businesses positively in the community-run tournaments, support charities, offer vocational workshops or summer jobs. Get involved.
Fight that negative stereotype.
Exactly. His point was that just sitting back thinking business is good, why bother, was really hurting the industry's long-term prospects and respectability.
And image wasn't the only battle. There were some serious legal fights going on too, right?
Yeah, big ones. The AMA, that's the Amusement and Music Operators Association, set up a legal fund. They were fighting an unfavorable ruling from the Copyright Royalty Tribunal about jukebox operators having to provide detailed lists of every location where their jukeboxes were.
Sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare.
It was. They were even considering taking it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And on a different front, BMI Broadcast Music, Inc., was suing Harvard University.
Harvard? For what?
Unauthorized public performance of copyrighted songs. They specifically mentioned hits like Stayin' Alive, playing music in university spaces counted as public performance, apparently.
Wow, copyright battles heating up.
Definitely. And it wasn't just national stuff. State associations were crucial, too. The article mentions the Florida Association, FAMA, successfully lobbying against a potentially damaging bill that would have required meters on cigarette vending machines.
So protecting operators on multiple fronts, local and national.
Exactly. Advocacy was becoming really important.
Okay, legal battles aside, let's get back to the games. What were some of the hot new releases featured in April '79?
Ooh, lots of exciting stuff. Midway had a new compact sit-down video game cabinet designed for places like lounges and clubs where space was tight.
Targeting new venues.
Right. Cinematronics launched Starhawk, which was touted as a new 3D vector graphics action game. Stern released Trident, a solid-state pinball with some cool innovations like programmable, resettable drop targets and these special posts that could pop up to save your ball called Play More Posts.
Ooh, player-friendly features.
Yeah.
Nice. What about the big names like Atari and Gottlieb?
Atari had Superman, a big wide-body pinball. Its selling points were ball-to-ball memory, meaning it remembered features lit from one ball to the next, and scoring displays actually integrated into the back glass art. Pretty slick. Gottlieb countered with Countdown, a space-themed solid-state game with multiple banks of drop targets and a unique bonus feature tied to spelling out Countdown.
Sounds like lots of different approaches to pinball design.
Definitely. And in video, Vector Beam had Speed Freak, a driving game with 3D-style cars and crash sequences. The Valley Company had a really unusual one, Spectra 4, a sit-down pinball where the player could manually rotate the whole cabinet 360 degrees.
Rotate the cabinet. Wild.
Yeah. And Allied Leisure had Disco 79, a 4-player cocktail table pinball. Atari also had Video Pinball, which tried to blend video simulation with pinball mechanics. Lots of experimentation happening.
It really does sound like a tech explosion, not just in the games, but the support systems too.
For sure. The magazine highlighted new multi-coin countersorters from Abbott Inc., and Standard Changemakers was already anticipating the arrival of the new Susan B. Anthony $1 coin, expecting it to be huge for the change-making business.
Getting ready for the future.
Exactly. And under the hood, the article even broke down the microprocessors powering these new games, mentioning chips like the Motorola 6800, the Rockwell PPS-4, and the Zilog Z80. This shift to microprocessor control was fundamentally changing everything about game design and repair.
So much focus on tech and location.
Yeah.
But what about just basic business management,
Mm.
especially with inflation being such a big issue?
That was covered too. Louis Hohenstein wrote a piece specifically on using a balance sheet to manage inflation. Really practical advice for operators trying to stay afloat.
What were the key takeaways there?
Hohenstein really broke down the basics for them. Understanding your assets, cash, receivables, equipment, buildings versus your liabilities, both short-term and long-term debt. Getting a clear picture of your net worth. He stressed the difference between book value, which you use for taxes, and market value, what things are actually worth, which is crucial when inflation's messing with numbers. He even mentioned something called a shell allowance in mall leases.
Shell allowance.
Yeah, basically negotiating for the landlord to provide a basic unfinished space, or shell, potentially with some money towards fitting it out. A way to manage initial setup costs, just smart financial thinking.
And it seems operators were eager to learn this stuff. You mentioned that AMOA Notre Dame Business Seminar had record attendance.
Yeah, 119 people from 28 states and even Canada. They were definitely hungry for business knowledge.
What kind of tips came out of that seminar?
Some really good practical stuff. Dr. Milani, an accounting professor, talked about cost behavior, figuring out your fixed costs versus your semi-variable costs. Like record purchases for jukeboxes are semi-variable, right? Knowing that helps you make better decisions.
Okay, understanding your costs. Makes sense.
Then Dr. Malone, a marketing professor, dug into profitability. He shared stats like the average yearly cost per employee was around $12,000. The average location had only 2.4 machines. He warned against adding machines just for the sake of it, what he called cannibalistic additions, unless you genuinely had the high traffic to support them.
Don't dilute your earnings.
Right. He noted the average return on investment for coin-op amusement was about 16.6%, which was actually better than many other small businesses at 14%. But he argued it should be higher in inflationary times. And interestingly, he pointed out that vending machines, especially cigarette machines, often drag down the overall ROI for amusement operators who did both.
So amusement was actually more profitable than vending.
According to his data, yes. It suggested focusing on the amusement side might be smarter financially.
Did they get advice from actual operators too?
Oh yeah, the opera panel sounds like it was gold. John Pank talked about using computers to cut down data entry time, pretty advanced for 79. Also staggering his routemen's hours to reduce downtime, using company cars, two-way radios. He even put up those clear vinyl strips in doorways, like you see in warehouses, so servicemen could see each other without leaving doors wide open and wasting air conditioning.
Huh. Simple but clever cost saving.
Totally. Then Don Van Brackle took on some old wives' tales like never put an unreliable machine on route or don't add games that might lose money initially. He argued you needed data, good filing systems, and careful planning, especially with jukebox records, which he claimed could boost collections by 100% if programmed thoughtfully.
Challenging conventional wisdom with data.
Exactly. And John Estridge shared his system for assigning routemen specific blocks of machines and then meticulously tracking service calls and callbacks for each man and machine type. He said it dramatically boosted productivity because you could pinpoint problems. Was it the routeman, the machine model, or the location?
Really getting systematic about route management.
Yeah, very focused on efficiency. Other tips included not letting servicemen dictate which cars to buy based on personal preference instead of economy, budgeting about 1.25% of a machine's cost for its annual running expenses, looking into profit-sharing plans, and hiring college students for bookkeeping to save money.
Clip.
Just tons of practical, real-world advice.
Okay, let's unpack this. From the shifting economics of the energy crisis, the whole changing landscape of shopping malls, to that surprisingly wild world of arcade news. April 1979 was clearly a really pivotal moment.
It really was. Operators were juggling so much rapid tech changes, serious economic headwinds, trying to figure out the best locations, the best layouts, how to manage finances, even how to deal with polite customers.
Yeah?
And what's fascinating, I think, is how much of what we've talked about still resonates. You know, the need for a great location, yes, but also careful financial management, adapting your games and atmosphere to who you want to attract, maintaining that positive public image. It's all still relevant.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings up a question, doesn't it? In a business world that's always changing, always throwing new challenges at you, how much of success really boils down to just picking the right spot, like Doherty argued? And how much is it about the operator's own grit, their constant push for innovation, for excellence in everything they do, right down to, how clean they keep the machines?
That's a perfect thought for you, our listeners, to mull over until our next deep dive. What stands out to you about how arcade operators were navigating their world back in April 1979?